to introduce Richard Rayleigh, CorelDRAW master and freelance graphic designer. Richard lives in Jacksonville, USA. He started out as a screen printer where he learned the basics of the business and production. He started teaching himself about the pre-press and of the business on to do art and color separation using CorelDRAW. If you would like to learn more about Richard's journey, you can either go to the CorelDRAW Masters page on corel.com/CorelDRAWMasters or to his website www.fluids.com. Richard, welcome. Would you like to start?
Thank you, Cecile. Happy New Year, everybody. Today's webinar, we're going to cover some of the different basics of color separations for t-shirts and apparel. There's a couple different types of separations that you can do here in Corel. Spot color, CMYK, simulated process, manual separations. We're going to cover a couple of the different various separations, as well as choking and trapping and some of the finer details to better your prints on press. So to start, we're just going to go with the basic spot color separations, and going to base some of this same design we're going to use for a couple of the various separation types and go over some of the different variables that might come into play. One thing you should always do is you should always have your object manager open, and you can get that through the Windows Dockers. And since I already have mine open, it'll be under the Windows and Dockers, and I highly customize my workspace. So I have a lot of macros and things changed from the default. So if you get a little confused, just jot down some questions and I can help you later on. But with the object manager, you can pretty much see everything that's in. Let me close page 1, so we're just looking at page 2 here. All the objects will be shown, and it'll give you a list of all the colors of everything that's in the design, as well as layers and so forth. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm working at a really large screen size, so it's a little different for me right now. Everything's a little bit larger. Okay, so what I have here right now is I've got 2 layers. One is the shirt layer, and then I have another layer. Technically right now I just have everything on one layer. It's a little bit easier to work this way for me right now. I'll show you later on a design where everything's done in layers. So right now, I'm just going to go through here and check everything, and looks like everything here is done in Pantone colors. Got a Pantone white, 3155, and 126. So technically, and then we also have black. This design right here is based on going on a black shirt, so technically we wouldn't need to print a black. If you wanted to print on other colors, then obviously you'd want to print that black. But we're going to base this one right now on just black t-shirts, so we're not going to print any black. So what we need to do is we need to, I'm going to do a quick little edit here and select all the black objects. And I'm just going to change them to an RGB black. You don't have to do this. In the print options, you can just uncheck the black and it won't print. But just save steps later down the line, I'll just change this to black real quick. So right now, if this design is pretty much ready to go as is, mainly because everything's filled in spot colors, we would click the disable, click the printer icon here to disable the shirt from being printed. That way we're not having to deal with that. Let me move this a little bit so we can actually see the design. In the print options, you can use the auto registration features. I like to use my own custom registrations. That way I can get them up closer. I have different clients that use different types of registration marks. Some like just one above and one below in the middle. Some like all four. Some like them really large. So I always use custom registration marks. I have a little macro here that will pop these in for me real quick. And let me see here. Not quite sure why the object manager did that. So I'm not going to be able to see that one. There's Dockers. Dockers object manager. There it is. Okay. Want to hide, we're on page 2, so I'm going to hide that shirt so you can see the registration marks that are there. These are currently, if I go to the fill tool, these are set as 100% registration color. When you create your own, in order to have them done as registration color, I'm just going to draw a quick little crop mark here. And then we're going to fill these with registration color. Go to more. We want to go to models, and all the way down here, registration color. And that'll change those to registration color. So now that will act, and I'm going to keep this on here so you'll see in the print options. We go to print, Control P, and we'll go to this right here. I'm not going to actually print. I print to a thermal image setter. And so, as you can see, the custom one we just created is going to show up on each of the plates. And I need to do current page since I have a multi-page document. And that way, we'll go to color, print separations, separations tab. We're not going to print black. We want to print the 3 colors. Now currently the white and the design, and we'll go through, as you can see, they're on all 3 pages. And I'm going to cancel out of this real quick, and I'm going to bring up the t-shirt again. Our white is just the white that you see in the design, so technically that would be a highlight white. I'll show you a quick way to do a manual underbase. And this underbase that we'll go through works really well when you're sending designs to, say, another printer, and they're going to print out the separations. So since we have our custom registration marks, we'll get rid of that shirt so you can see. What you would do is you'd want to create your labels, the name of the colors. So we've got PMS 3155. PMS 126, I believe that was, and then a highlight white. And I usually size them down pretty small. That way they can be taped off by the printers fairly easy with as least amount of tape as possible. And then what you're going to want to do is fill these in the specific colors. Let me make sure that's And then what will happen is these will actually go control clicking to select this white. I know it's there, and I'm just going to copy this fill real quick. Can't see it, but you know it's there. And then in the print dialog, as you can see, they show up right here. So they will print on the plates, and the printer's not trying to guess which color is which. So, and by using PMS colors, it gives you a wide range. You're able to stay true to the client's logo or design for visual purposes, and then for printing purposes, you're pretty much ready to go to press print. We're going to come into a couple variables that need to be addressed that you can do in the print options, but I like to do it manually as far as choking and trapping, and I'll cover that here in just a few minutes. Going to switch over to this same design and show you the CMYK cheat. And this would be based more loosely based on when you get a design sent to you ready to go, supposedly. So I'd open up the Object Manager, and let's see here. I'll go to page 3, and we're going to look at these colors. And a lot of times what happens is, let's see here, pink and black. Oh, I did this wrong real quick, so let me just change something up in here real quick, just to simulate some of the things that happens in this industry, and probably just about any graphics industry. You'll open up a design that was given to you, and it'll actually have, visually, it looks good to go. It looks like a 3-color, but by checking the Object Manager, as you can see, we've got different color blacks from different color palettes. And this happens quite a bit. So, always having the Object Manager open before you go to print is going to help you to, see if there's any issues. Currently, right now, if we were to try to go print this, let me do current page, color, separations. As you can see, we've got different color blacks. That's not going to work. We don't want to print 3 different black plates. So by this Object Manager, you'd be able to see where the different colors are. We've got a CMYK black here. We've got a gray black here. Just by holding the Control key, you can select them all. Through the Object Manager, actually selects them in the draw window as well. And I do believe this one right here is going to be our shirt color, so I'm not going to worry about that one, and we'll just make this all CMYK black. I'm going to delete this and act like this one we're just printing on a white t-shirt. Well, you know what? We're going to print this one on a ash t-shirt. So right now what we have is we've got our Pantone white, which is just going to be a highlight white. Going on a ash t-shirt, there's really no need for an underbase with the colors that are being used. So just a highlight white will work. And we have all our colors. Right there. So by being able to go through and check, because almost every design that I get supplied from another company, artist, there's usually multi-shades of black when they're all supposed to be solid, and it always turns into an issue. So opening up that Object Manager is going to show you a lot of info from the get-go and enable you to attack the design in the most productive way. So we can go to print, check my time. I'm going to do current page again, make sure print separations is on, and cancel. I need to actually add a layer. I could delete the ash shirt color, but I'm just going to put it on a layer, and we'll just hide that layer. Actually, we don't even need to hide it because it's not going to print. As long as you have the print icon disabled, that layer will not print. And so, excuse me, for the CMY cheat, if the design came to you all in, let's say, CMYK colors, sorry about that. but they're not exactly specific CMYK colors, for your design that you're printing. Some of the things you can do is, like this right here, we'll go this color. This isn't going to be just a true solid color. As you can see, it wants to print as, I think I used this one. It's going to print as 60% cyan, 20% yellow, 20% black. That's not what we want. We want that to print as a certain color. So the quick CMYK cheat would be to just change this color to a C, Y, M, or K color. And then all you would do is change your label. So I'm just going to do yellow, make sure that's white, and this design, this color right here would be yellow. But we know that's going to be gold. So I would just go in here, type my, I'm on the wrong layer. Make sure I have layer 1 selected. So I would just type gold, teal, and let's see, the gold I filled yellow, the teal I filled in cyan, and then when you go into the print options page, color, print separations, and then now what happens is, there's still some teal in there, so I would have to figure out where that one is. And I'm not quite certain. Let me open up my object manager and we'll find that real quick. Okay, there we go. It's up here. And the teal I did blue. I think I have a double object under there hidden. So now in the print options, excuse me, catching a little bit of cold here. Current page, print separations. And then now our design's ready to print, and we're just using CMYK. That's a real quick, easy way to do a quick color separation, just using this cyan, yellow, magenta, because we labeled them, and filled them with the colors. What it looks like right here doesn't matter as long as they're labeled correctly. The printer's going to know that it's teal and so forth. This method is also is a good way for doing a white underbase in a design. So I'm going to go back to the spot color seps page, and we're going to create a quick underbase for this design. And we're on page 2. So I want to get my shirt shown, and we're going to copy everything, including the registration marks. We're going to add a layer, label this your white underbase, like that first layer, rename it. Renaming your layers is a good practice. That way you know exactly what's going on when you open up the object manager and you're able to flip through everything, as opposed to having a multi-page document with everything saying layer 1, layer 2. Makes for easier navigating. And just going to hide this layer, and we're going to paste. And let's see here, we don't need these labels, but I am just going to select this one and name this white underbase, and we're going to create this underbase all in cyan. And I'll show you in the print options how this is going to work. Due to everything being so large, I have to kind of move around a little bit. I apologize about that. So for our white underbase, what we're going to do, okay, those are our registration marks. And essentially what you're going to do is, you're going to select everything that the colors that you see, we're going to make cyan. So all the white in the design will be changed to cyan, 100%, Once you get your highlight whites, then you can remove all your blacks. I use a little macro called Select Same. It's a free macro. I mentioned it in my last webinar, and where you can get it, and you can watch that webinar and get that information or email me later, and I can give it to you. I'm going to fill all that white, and then all the solid colors are going to get a solid underbase. And due to these colors, like the gold, definitely going to want a solid underbase. This teal, it's a darker color. You could do a solid underbase, just like this, or you could do a halftone underbase, and since it's bright up at the top, you would make that 100%, and then I'm going to fill that 100%, and let's get last color. And then I would just go in here and maybe do 75%. And it's very hard to see, but when you print it, it's going to print a halftone of 75% under the bottom of that teal, which is going to give you a softer hand. Playing with different percentages for a softer feel, I would say anywhere in between 60 to 75% is going to be the range that you want to stay in due to dot gain on press. And so right now our underbase is complete. So that would be our underbase, and right under that layer we have our PMF spot colors. So when we go into the print options, I did it open instead of Control P. We'll go to current page, color, make sure print separations are on. Now you have to have a PostScript printer enabled to enable these options. If not, you can print to a PDF and then go around that way. But as you can see right here, our main colors, we've got our gold, our teal. The trans white is our highlight white. We don't want to print black, and we want to print cyan. Cyan is actually our white underbase. So that would be, let's see, that would be our underbase. There's our highlight white. And I'm not quite sure why that's not showing up. I'm going to have to see, that might be the printer that I have specified. But the spot colors, when you click on the spot colors, what's going on? Make sure, let me just check. Turn that one off. Hide the white underbase. Oh, I know what it was. I didn't have the right printer selected. So you need to make sure the printers are selected. And there they are. I had the wrong printer selected. Since I turned off my white underbase, I'm going to turn that back on real quick. Make sure I get the correct printer. Separations. So I'm not printing yellow, magenta, or the black. Oop, we have some extra colors here. So you need to go through, oh, I know why, I'm not doing current page. There we go. See, I usually work in a single page document, so the current page is kind of messing me up here. Here are our colors: gold, teal, highlight white, and the cyan is our underbase. And this is ready to print out. And they're still not showing. Let's see what the issues are. Several spot plates. Cancel. I'm going to get rid of the print. Device. Color. Print separations. Okay. Alright, there they're showing. I think it has to do with the fact that I had the cyan above it. So what you would do is you would print out your PMS colors, and then you would come back and print out your highlight white, or your underbase white, excuse me.
Richard?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Usually I keep the questions for the end, but because you were talking about PMS colors, we have a question about PMS colors. Could you explain a little more about the PMS colors?
Okay. Essentially, the PMS is a Pantone matching system, and if you go up to Window, go to Color Palettes, you have all sorts of color palettes. I use the Pantone Solid Coated. I just closed it because I already had it open. Pantone Solid Coated, and gives you a ton of colors. And essentially, these colors, you're able to do tints and so forth. So I'm going to fill this with, let me do a dark color. With this Pantone 1805, actually I'm on the guides layer. So let me create a new layer, and I'm going to hide all this. So essentially what you can do with these is, if I were to try to print this out, go to print this out, it's going to print this red square. But with the Pantone colors, I can actually do tints. And by opening up the Uniform Fill palette, you can go in here with the slider, and you can do all sorts of, 32%, 44%, whatever percentage you want. And it's going to print out just like it would if these were PM or CMYK colors. And it just gives you a wider variety as CMYK does a lot of mixing. Like I said, for this sky blue, you're mixing two colors, whereas Pantone, you can find a sky blue and it's going to print as one color, and then tints of that same color. And anywhere from 1%, 0%, all the way to 100. And using this Pantone color palette to do your designs is going to make it a lot easier when it goes time for color separating, because they will already color separate, and you won't have to do anything with those. So I'm going to change the defaults because my outlines were coming in pink, and let me get rid of those. And just to show you real quick, I'm going to fill these all with a couple different colors. I'm going to do this one a tint. Let's say 35%. And we'll pick one more object and fill an entire another color. So right now, these squares represent a design. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. It looks like 5 colors, but this right here is a tint of this color. So when you go into your print options, cancel, let me open, I need to turn off my white underbase, that way just these layers are going to print. You pick the correct printer. Make sure color separations. We'll get rid of the 3 CMYK colors because we're not going to print those. And it's still wanting to show the colors underneath, so let me do this. Let me copy these to a new document. This will be a lot easier. Current document. Print separations, and there you go. So what's going to happen is 1, 2, 3, 4 colors, and let me get to the Pantone color here. As you can see, there's the tint, so that's going to print out as a halftone. That'll print out solid. And if you create your designs, and let me get rid of this layer. Delete. So back to our original design here. It's done in PMS colors. I'm ready to print. I don't have to change any colors or do anything. When I design this, as long as I design using the Pantone colors, it's going to print exactly how it looks. And all I have to do is add registration marks, or in the print options on the pre-press tab, you can add your registration marks, calibration bar, just, all the information that you would need. File information and which would be the colors and all that. The reason I don't like using those options is because it adds a lot of stuff, and as far as the printer's concerned, that increases the amount of prep work they have to do. They have to tape off all these things. So a lot of screen printers, all they want is the registration marks and the color of the each plate that's being printed. So, even these registration marks, I would get rid of these. Let me unlock the design. So when I send to a printer, that's all they see on their films. It's a lot less they have to tape off or block out and so forth, and they get it on press and go. So always design in PMS if you can, when it comes to simple designs like this. If you're going to do a simulated process design where there's tons and tons of colors, you might have bitmaps in there with the design as well. You're going to want to use RGB, but then you're going to have to color separate that in a raster program. Photo paint, and that's a whole nother ball game of color separations. We're just covering some of the simple basics, more for the beginners, those that are just getting into screen printing and don't truly understand how to color separate. The next option, which is the option that I currently do, is manual separations, and that's where I will actually select my logo, my design, I will copy it, and I will paste it. This design right here is, we were doing it as a 4-color, 2 whites, the teal, and the gold. So I would have 4 pages, and what I would do is just add a page, and I would relabel this, that's it, rename page. And I would name this white under base, and I would do that for each color in the design. This would be the highlight white, the next page would be the teal, and I'm going to get rid of these real quick so it doesn't confuse me. And essentially I would go through and I would manually change those colors. So I'm going to move this over to the side, and I'm just going to do one. There's no need to go through each one. And let's see here, we'll do the gold. So what I would do is just go through, select any colors, all the colors beside the gold, fill those with white, and then the gold I would fill with grayscale. 100%, and then that would be 100%, that would be white. And I would do that on each page for each of the colors. And essentially that design right there would look like this. You've got your teal, your gold, and I have this set up as a halftone under base. This one right here. These would have your registration marks on each page, and the page size would be set for optimum film and print, and you're ready to go.
Richard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry for interrupt. Actually, I keep all the questions at the end, but because you are talking about macro for illustration, some people would like to know where to find this macro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured that would be the case, and and like I'd mentioned, I did mention the macro and where to find it in the previous webinar, but it is at macromonster.com, and the two that I use the most is the Select Same, which makes selecting images, as you can see, you get all sorts of options to select images. And when you get a graphic from, let's say, Illustrator, from another artist, you open it up, Illustrator their blends tend to be, gazillion objects and so forth. This makes for selecting objects a lot easier. You could have 1,000 objects filled with yellow, and in the old days you'd have to go and manually select each one of those. With this, you just click fill, whatever color you have, it'll select it in the design, so it just speeds up the process, especially for manually separating, like I like to do. But you can find those at macromonster.com. And also, there's a couple free ones, and then he has a bunch that you have to pay for. But they're all designed by Corel users, and there's some very nice things there that will definitely speed up your designing and prep work. So now you can do the find and replace that comes with Corel. It's very powerful. It just takes you through a lot of steps. This macro does the exact same thing in less steps, so that's why I prefer to use this one. Let's see here. Now, did the manual steps. Now, with the reason I do manual steps is so I can do chunking and trapping, which you can do a little bit through the print options, and also based on if you had a fill with an outline. Missing a lot of stuff here. What you can do is right-click when you're designing and overprint fill, overprint outline, and so forth. And then when you're going to do your separations, I need to actually use colors, correct colors here. In the print options, current page, separations, document overprints, preserve or ignore, and then you have automatic trapping. When designing, you have to remember to do that. So it gets kind of hard to remember what you added outlines to overprint and so forth. So I manually do the exact same thing. And essentially, this little graphic gives you an idea. This is a top view, and these two objects are actually would be a solid black. I just used a transparency to show you. If it was a 2-point outline, the default outline, what's going to happen is one point is going to be over the object and one point is going to be outside the object, and the 1 point and 1 point make your 2-point outline. And this is a side view of the exact same thing. I'll get rid of this so you can see. And then choking is where you would have a white outline and you're shrinking the object. So in some instances you can do both. Some instances you can only do a trap, and some instances you can only do a choke. It's like in a left chest print where your imprint size is 3.5 inches to 4 inches and you have a lot of type. Let's see here. I'm not going to do it on this page yet. So let's just say you had a graphic and some text. CorelDRAW rocks. Edit test. So I'm going to get rid of that. And you had, this is the print size. This is really tiny. So, and I want to actually put a black background, make this a color, just to give you a better idea. So what you could do is on this circle, your print, this is all you're printing is a left chest. In your separations, I'm just going to move these over for your underbase. Technically, that would be your underbase, and you could print. And then your other two separations, and then those would be your other separations. But what you're going to want to do is help the printer. And there's all kinds of variables, the different types of screens, the type of press, if it's manual printing, if they're old screens, wooden screens. To help with registration, choking and trapping is going to help with registration, and it's also going to speed up production. And if you can speed up production, those printers are going to really like you as an artist in the color separator. But what would happen is, up here at the top, for the underbase, as we're working right here, you would just add a white outline, and since it's a left chest real small, I would do a half a point, which means, and that's tiny. And same thing on Corel, the text right here. When I add that, as you can see, it shrunk. And I will get rid of it, and I'm going to add it back real quick. So we just choked this, and so you can see we made it a lot smaller. But on this, we could actually do a 5 point, a 0.5, half a point, because it's bigger. If I did a half a point on the Corel, it's going to get so small that the top color is going to actually print on the shirt. So by manually trapping, I'm able to do various size traps and chokes and so forth. And what would happen here on the pink color, I would actually add a black outline at the same thickness. And so that's going to actually roll over. See, as you can see, it's going to actually roll over the color, and no white's going to show. Your print's going to look just like this by adding chokes and traps. Back to our diamond baseball design, you're limited to what you can do as far as choking and trapping because we have a lot of gradients, and you can't add a trap right here because it'd be solid, and you don't want that. So essentially what you have to do is just modify the underbase. So you would shrink. Let me ungroup all these real quick. So technically, if we went back to just the solid underbase, which is going to be a lot easier, what would happen is I would just choke it. You're shrinking everything on the underbase so that it's a little bit smaller and the colors actually roll over. As you can see, it would roll over the sides of the white underbase, and you're not going to see any of that underbase. So again, with the manual underbase, you would just copy and go to each page, and it seems like a lot of work, but this design right here take about 5 minutes to manually separate. Once you start doing them, you'll be able to go through them really quick. And what I want to do is show you a design that I did for a customer. This was the design going on a black t-shirt, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 5 colors. and a little bit of mixing, not a whole lot of mixing, a lot of different shades. Really the main mixing is the yellow and the red and the flames, and to give you an orange print, orangish color. That was all created in spot colors, PMS colors. I could just press print with that and it would print ready to go, but because I like to choke and everything, I come in here and manually separate, and this is my white underbase, the black, the gray, the yellow, and the red. Printed great. I got to see a t-shirt, but I didn't wasn't able to get a picture of it, or else I'd show you that as well. Let's see here. Another option for your underbase would be to do a quick underbase. Would be to select your design, and I'm not going to select the registration marks, but we also want the background. So I need to make sure I have that selected. I would bitmap, convert to bitmap. I'm going to do a low resolution right now, but you would go to grayscale. You would want to do at least 300 dpi and uncheck, keep everything unchecked, and just click OK. And then effects, transform, invert. I'm not sure why that happened. That's weird. Oh, because I had that selected. There we go. So bitmap, convert to bitmap. Effects, transform, invert. And technically, there's your white underbase, ready to go. But you're really going to want to do a little bit of tweaking, and go to adjust, tone curve, and you want to darken your darks and lighten your lights a little bit. Pull that down too much. Good little S curve. What's going to happen here is this is going to, as you can see, darken and everything. That's going to take this type of underbase using the curves is going to be a little bit of trial and error. I've been doing this for so long, I'm able to just visually look at it and tell that and know how it's going to print. Beginners, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. Just the quick, as we did, convert to bitmap, grayscale, effects, transform, invert. That right there, it's going to be your best starting point, and then you'll once you get on press, you'll realize that, hey, I really need to, it needs to be a little bit darker, in that text, and that's where you would come in and adjust your curves, or that's not the one I want. Effects, adjust. You can go into your contrast and darken it up here, and that's going to be more like it. And what I'm going to do is copy that, and since we changed that, but if you remember, this bitmap looks similar to the manual one that we had done. Actually, that first one was correct, where you darkened everything up. One other thing I would like
Richard?
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. Also, question for Carlene. Can you do that in CorelDRAW Graphics Suite X4?
Yes, you can do this. You can do all this in any version of Corel.
Okay.
Except for the very first ones.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
So, I've been doing this for T-shirt separations in art for about 20 years now, and I started with CorelDRAW version 6, and everything that you see here, you're able to do in those. As far as the macros are concerned, I'm not sure if they will work, with older versions or not. You'll just have to check with the author of the macros. But everything that you're seeing can be done in older versions of Corel. I do want to bring up another aspect, and let me start a new page here real quick. And just a simple example, I'm going to fill this, add a quick blend. So actually, do this color. So the way this would separate is with your manual separation, do grayscale. That's your yellow, and that's your cyan. So this object right here is going to color separate this way, either doing it manually or through the print engine. Let's see, separations. So for this page, we've got our yellow and our cyan. Yeah, I didn't have current page. So there's our color separations. That's going to print, that's just fine. But what I like to do is, and it's a good thing, with the manual separations, is beefing up that undercolor. So yellow's going to print first. More than likely, yellow would print before the blue. So I would just move your slider over a little bit and beef up that yellow. So when the blue prints on top, it's going to help hide any gaps where the halftones line up if you're not a perfect registration and so forth, and it'll help solve some of that on press. So that's another reason I like to manually separate. And like, even though this wasn't going to 2 colors, but what I could do is beef this up a little bit and make sure it's a little bit darker down at the bottom and so forth. Or if I want more white showing up at the top, I could change the slider a little bit, to help on press. And I did want to show one more option. I think I have a little bit of time. It'll only take a second. And I'm going to bring in this eagle. And let's say you added some text and so forth. This eagle's going to print out as grayscale on a black shirt, or a white shirt, or an ash shirt. So essentially, you could just print that right out, specify your halftone, and print that on a white or ash shirt, just as black and white, and get a pretty decent print. What I would suggest is going and adjusting your curves. You want to darken your darks, lighten your lights. With screen printing, you have a dot gain, and 30% is a good round average to remember. If you print a 20% halftone on a t-shirt, there's a good chance it's going to look like a 50% due to the dot gain, depending on what type of screens and mesh and inks and so forth that are being used. So anything in the range of 90 to 100 is guaranteed going to print as a solid. Some of the really good high-end printers are able to hold these dots, but the general printers, your day-to-day, everyday screen printers, your dot gain is going to fill. So adjusting that in the art is going to make it print and look better. So, if you were to look in here, as you can see, that's going to print solid black almost. So by adjusting the curves and making that solid black before you go to film is going to reproduce on press a lot better than if I were to just print this design, this eagle as it is. And to create an underbase, say this eagle you want to print black and white, that would be our black, and what I'm going to do is make our white, and essentially I'm just going to, we want to put a border on it so we can convert this to get our white underbase, and convert to bitmap, grayscale, effects, transform, invert. And essentially that you could just go right there. You could print these two colors, print that as a white and print that as a black on a ash any color t-shirt, and you're going to get a really good representation of this eagle. But again, by going in and adjusting your tone curves and darkening your darks and lightening your lights, you're going to get a lot better print. So I do see one more thing. Bitmap. Convert to bitmap. Do black and white. That way I can fill this with the actual color just to give you a general idea. Bitmap, convert to bitmap, black and white. And then there you go. Again, adjusting the, I did these real quick so that doesn't look good. That's where you want to go in and start playing with your curves and so forth. You can double click the bitmaps, which will open up Photo Paint, which has a lot more features for editing raster images. But essentially, what I just showed you, you would get a very good print. Get these back to the way they are right here. To this right here, you wouldn't want to trap. There's no real way to go in and trap because of the halftone images and so forth. So, again, manually separating, it allows you to do your choking and trapping, which again speeds up the production on press. So, I hope everybody learned some.
I'm sure, even myself, I've learned a lot of tips and techniques today. Thank you very much, Richard. So, yeah, we are a little late, but I mean, it's so interesting that I found like it was a good opportunity for everybody to make it longer. For the moment, I have 3 questions, Richard, for you. You have already answered 2 questions during the webinars. So first question, does the T-shirt and apparel printing require only Pantone colors?
No. As far, it depends on the type of printing that you're going to do. And how you want to do your separations in the art. Again, the eagle that I just showed you, that was a grayscale image, no Pantone colors or anything. This design that you see right here, it's actually, I created it in CMYK, but I could convert all these colors to Pantone colors, and it just makes for quicker printing, and because essentially, as long as it's designed in all Pantone colors, it's ready to go separation-wise. You don't have to do any seps, just like you would with the CMYK. Essentially, if it's all CMYK, you could just go in here and print the CMYK, and you don't actually have to do any type of separation. It's already done through the print dialogue and your rips and so forth.
Excellent. Another question, what is the purpose of the white underbase, and do the printers need to receive this layer underneath the design layer or in the color, in the correct color?
Okay, the purpose for the white underbase, if you want to print, say, a lemon yellow, just a yellow, on a black t-shirt, you have to have a white underbase underneath that, or else the yellow is going to be contaminated by the shirt color, the black, and it's not going to look lemon yellow. So, you know, ultimately what would happen is, I'm going to see if I can mimic this real quick. There's your black shirt. I'm going to create a quick yellow object, and the inks are semi-transparent. So what would happen is, you know, this yellow right here would print just like this yellow on a white t-shirt, but on a colored t-shirt without an underbase, you can see how it gets contaminated. So if I had a white underbase underneath it, let me get rid of the lens. As you can see now, it looks the same. That yellow will print, it'll look just like this on white, and then it'll look the exact same on the black. So that's the purpose for the underbase. And the only real way to create an underbase in a design would be to, you know, on everything, you know, click overprint fill, overprint outline, and so forth. So usually, I've never seen an artist do it that way. Every design that I've set and that I've gotten from other people, because I also output films for other companies, that's essentially how the separations are done. The white underbase would usually be on a different layer, usually specified in one of the CMYK colors. That way you can put, you know, for any type of halftones that are going to be on the underbase. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, well, it seems yes, thank you. And it was the question from Yogita, and she really thank you very much for answering her questions. We have also a million of thanks for Hector. So it seems that you made very happy people today, Richard.
Awesome.
So some other question. I'm well versed in CorelDRAW, but do not do screen printing myself. However, I contract out for direct screen printing and ink transfers quite often. I struggle getting good looking halftones from them, or they tell me they can't do it. As in your example with the gradient fields, is there any reason this couldn't be done as a direct print or ink transfer?
Everything that I have shown you is geared for direct printing on t-shirts. As far as transfers go, to be totally honest, I am not too fluent with color transfers, but I do believe they are separated and printed the exact same way as t-shirts are. You know, if it's a plastisol transfer. So, you know, transfers have gotten a lot better since, you know, they first were introduced, you know, years and years ago, but I have not really kept up with transfers. I've just never had any customers that want those. But to be honest, it sounds, you know, the problems that you're describing, it sounds like it's more on the printer's end and not the art.
Greg just said that yes, they are plastisol transfers.
Okay, so yeah, they the only difference is, you know, when you in the print for when you're printing for transfers, the print is actually inverted, and you're printing backwards. That way, when you apply it to the shirt, you actually see the correct design. So I would say that's just limitations on the printer, or the art is being sent to the printer at, again, the dot gain. You have to remember, a 30%, if bright color separations were set as 30% green, it's probably going to print at 50%. If you want it to look like 30%, you need to lower it. That way, when you go on press and print, it prints more as a 30%. So you would actually probably send a 15% halftone, knowing that when they print, it's going to look more like a 30%.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I hope it will help Greg. Let us know, Greg, if you have any further question on your...
Yes, I have my email address right here at the bottom, and if anybody has any specific questions that haven't been answered, please feel free to email me, and I will do my best to help.
Okay, good. Some other questions. So the purpose of the underbase is to print lighter inks on darker supports. Does that apply to other materials apart from fabric, like paper, cardboard, plastic?
As far, that I am not sure. I don't think so. That's getting into, industries that I am not familiar with, and you're talking about different inks and so forth. Everything in this tutorial is really geared towards, plastisol ink printing on apparel. You would have to get with your specific vendors, to find out if they need, an underbase, and so forth. But for like plastics and so forth, I would not think so. But again, it's all depends on the type of inks that are being used, whether they're opaque or transparent. And like with plastisol inks, they're semi-transparent. You can get high opaque inks and so forth. But like with my screen printing shop that I owned for about 11 years. We used an all-purpose ink, which was in the middle. It was semi-transparent and a little opaque, but that ink worked on dark shirts and light shirts, yet for dark shirts it did need an underbase.
Okay. Well, we have a comment from Dan saying that the underbase does apply to other substrates. He works with a multitude of substrates, different substrates in the packaging industry, and underbase applies to most of them.
Okay.
Ed would like you to explain print to PDF for separations.
Okay. Essentially, with printing your seps to a PDF, let's see if I can get back to spot color seps here. Copy this to a new page. So, it's just like printing, like you would be printing to film or your printer. The only difference is you're going to choose your PDF and print separations, and you're going to go through the exact same motions. Choose all your layouts, your information. Always check your Issues tab. The reason output doesn't fit on the media is because I didn't go through and actually specify my print size. But you would go through, specify your print size, and then press print. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a PDF with this is a 4 color, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'd have a PDF generated of 4 pages of your color separations. And it's the exact same as printing to a printer. The only difference is when in the print dialog you would choose your PDF.
Excellent. So last question, because we are already 14 minutes after, but it's so people. It seems that they love it, and it brings a lot of good tips to them, good techniques. So last question: is there a magic number for the trapping as far as the standard number of points?
There is no magic number, because it all depends on what you're choking and trapping. I would not go any more than 1 point personally, because what's going to happen is if you choke your underbase at one point, and then you say you added a trap to the top color, that top color might actually fall on the shirt, and that's not what you want. So that's going to be a little bit of trial and error. Again, I usually I don't go any higher than a half a point. I use a hairline and a half a point and for my chokes and my traps. But like this color separations, I would actually, for my underbase, I would actually make that solid, and I would put a half a point outline on it, and then for the green top color, I would actually put a half a point black outline on it. And then that's going to essentially roll over just enough to where it should cover all the white. That's going to help with, if your screens aren't the best, tighten screens and so forth, and that's where it varies. This is a big design, so technically I could probably do a 1 point, even a 2 point, but you don't. Again, it's just a little bit of trial and error. But if you start off and just stick with the hairline and the half a point, I think you're going to be able to see the benefits of manually choking and trapping, and then you better see how you can use it a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. Again, like I showed you with that small text, some text, if it's real small enough, if you add a half a point white outline for your choke, if the text has serifs, it might get rid of the serifs. So, and then you don't want that, so you would have to use a small trap, choke, excuse me, and then maybe a little bit larger trap on the top color. So trapping and choking is definitely, it all depends on what you're trapping and choking as to how big you can use.
Okay, excellent, Richard. Really, really, really a big thank you to you, Richard, for sharing some of your techniques and tips today. It seems that they have been really valuable. I've received very positive feedback from our attendees. So it seems that it's a very passionating subject, and yeah, so let's keep in mind perhaps to do some more webinars in this area.
Definitely.
Yeah, because the interest is there for sure. Thank you everyone for your time and interest today in CorelDRAW Graphic Suite X6. If you need any further information on CorelDRAW Graphic Suite, just you can download the trial version on corel.com/CorelDRAW. Also, a lot of people have asked about where to find the recorded session of this webinar. If you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or CorelDRAW.com, you will be notified when the recorded session will be available, but usually we upload it on YouTube, and it's available on Corel.com /CorelDRAW-webinars. We put all our recorded session on this page, and it takes us between 2 to 4 working days to have it ready. So again, a big thank you to all of you. For your information, next month webinar will happen on Thursday, February the 13th, at the same time as of today. Joseph Diaz, you may know him, graphic designer, sign artist, CorelDRAW master, big grand prize winner of 2011 design contest. He will show you some tips for adding extra character to your design in CorelDRAW. So to register, simply go to corel.com/CorelDRAW-webinars. And we really hope